One of the most profound things I've learned in my life is that it's actually not about my hair at all. I've spent a lifetime trying to cover up who I am. And as much as I love a good external transformation, and I do, I much more love a heart transformation. Join me as I share how I work to heal my heart, find happiness, and embrace our hair. Hey guys, welcome back to It's Not About Your Hair, where we talk, you know it is, all things hair, heart, and happiness. Today I wanted to talk about actually curly hair, becoming a curly hair specialist, the qualifications that it takes. I'm going to be speaking to my stylist friends who are following along. And for any of you looking to get into something new, really, that's what this is all about. So the podcast, I always say, is a little bit of everything. But recently, I've had quite a few stylists reach out to me and have some questions about how I became a curly hair specialist. And I think that you'll discover that the path is somewhat twisty and turny, and there's not a clear-cut direction, which is, I think, again, most of life. The curly hair world right now is kind of like the wild, wild west. There's beauty school, and what we've seen historically is that curly hair isn't taught in beauty school. And so we learn in school how to do straight hair because it's easier, or how to do wet hair because it makes more sense. Pull things out at this angle and do this and do that. And in the curly hair world, when I was growing up, there wasn't anyone that was a curly hair specialist. And since I've been in this curly hair arena the last maybe 8-10 years, my whole life I've been a curly girl, but really specializing in curly hair the last 8 or 10 years, it's really been an explosive industry. And there's a lot of controversy around us curly hair specialists. I hear a lot of different remarks like, why does it have to cost so much more than a regular haircut? And what actually makes you a specialist? And there's a lot of hairstylists that say, well, I know how to do curly hair. I've been doing hair 25 years. And none of that is right or wrong, except for the fact that if you really don't know how to do naturally curly hair, you shouldn't say you know how. That is the biggest problem in the salon industry that I see as a whole right now, and the biggest disservice to our curly haired clients. If you do not know how to take someone's hair that looks like mine and style it in the salon without fear. So I know when I owned my big salon previously, before I did curly hair, no one wanted to do curly haired clients because you try to blow them out and they were frizzy. You try to put products in them and they were frizzy. It's hard to get them smoothed out. And so there's this idea that all hair is the same, and that's just not true. It is different, and we approach it differently. In the first half of my career, I'm going to be honest, I straightened my hair, and I thought that anyone with my hair texture should have their hair thinned out. I blew out everyone with curly hair. I blew their hair out straight, and I cut their hair dry and straight. So at least I was doing dry hair cutting, because I still cut curls dry. But that was wrong. It was wrong. And it was wrong for me. And it didn't work best for my curls. So it made it so that my hair looked best when I wore my hair straight. But I don't wear my hair straight. Curly hair lives 3-dimensionally. So we should cut it 3-dimensionally. The way that I think about curly hair is it's more like sculpting or hedge trimming. We're creating shapes inside of something that is a raw form. And when we pull this hair out, if you pulled my hair out straight, if you're watching, you can see, but I'm actually about 5 inches longer than I look when my hair is curly. If you're listening, I'm just pulling and stretching my curl out. And the hair around the front of my face tends to be a little bit tighter. And as we get to these underneath our back bits, they're a little bit straighter. The curl is a little bit looser. And so you begin to, why would I cut both of those hairs the same? Because what's going to happen is when they're dry, they're going to live in different areas. That's what makes me a specialist, you guys. It's not my amount of training. It's not all of the certifications that I have, because I don't have very many. I think what makes a specialist because, again, we live in a world where there isn't, you don't have to get an extra certificate like a barber or a hairstylist. You just get to say that you're a specialist. And I think what makes me a specialist is my willingness to be vulnerable about what I don't know, my desire to learn. I have touched so many different types of curl, and my willingness to play and get uncomfortable so that there isn't someone that can't walk into my salon that I don't feel like I can help them and be honest about what I don't know, but also be brave enough to try. I'm going to speak a little bit harshly to those of you who are claiming to be curly hair specialist or saying on your website that you do curly hair, but you're not posting your work. I'm not saying that you have to be social media savvy, but you need to have representation of the clients that you say that you do on your website, on your social media. I think that it's really important to show a picture is worth 1,000 words. So right now, there's a lot of people claiming to do curly hair, and then clients are coming in and you're doing a disservice. And that is frustrating to the client. It's frustrating to those of us who are trying to pursue curly hair styling and trying to help our clients. I also think what makes someone a curly hair stylist is the education portion of an appointment. For me, at every single appointment, whether it's a new client or an existing curl friend, I am always trying to problem solve with that client what their frustrations are. Is it something that they can fix? Is it a product tweak? Is it an air tweak? Is it something that they're doing with their hands? Is it something that is fixable, or is it something that we need to learn to accept? In the curly world in general, there is, and it's getting better, you guys. I mean, it's so much better. When I was a kid, there wasn't one model with curly hair. Now they're everywhere. In fact, I saw that the fall hair trends for 2024 are natural texture. Finally, we're trending. But being able to look at who you are in the mirror and accept what you see, that is what I think my specialty is. It is so much more than hair. It's so much deeper. Most of my curly clients didn't grow up with curly moms or curly dads. They didn't have people in their life that helped them, or they didn't have people in their life that embraced their curly hair. So even the narrative that they were getting from their parents and their peers was, what's the matter with your hair? Because often when we don't understand something, we use language that feels aggressive or harsh. So my hair was frustrating to my family because it was wild and they didn't know what to do with it. And therefore, that mindset that my hair was bad or in need of fixing was ever present. It wasn't until I was, I don't know, 37. I'm going to tap this really quick. 37, that I actually started embracing my hair. I'd been playing around with it, but not embracing it. I'm 44, so I would still consider me new to this world. And if you are wanting to pursue curly hair artistry or curly hair styling, I think that the hard part is that it takes lots and lots of practice. And that's hard to want to do when you're behind the chair, right? Because we want to be able to know the outcome that's going to happen with our client. And we know that if we round brush their hair straight or blow dry it straight and use our curling iron or curling wand, we know that that's predictable. When we have a client that we don't understand their curl pattern, diffusing their hair that could end up frizzy, maybe you're trying to curl it, you're behind, it takes more time. So that leads me into, why do curly hair stylists charge so much? First of all, there are so many reasons, and I'll just go through a few of them. What I think is, if you find a great curly hair stylist, hopefully you just think he or she is worth it, and you don't even mind paying them what they're worth. But here's a couple of things. So curly hair stylists in general take more time. So a new client appointment for me is 3 hours. I used to book 2 hours with a color client and double book one or two clients in the middle of that with an assistant. So I was charging way more for a hair color service, which I don't do anymore. And I had an assistant, and my assistant did a majority of the work for me when I was a color specialist. So I would formulate, decide, place any foils that needed to be placed, and do the hair cutting. But 90% of the time, my assistant applied any base color, did any blowing out that needed to happen, did all of my shampooing. And so I was paying someone to do other tasks so that I could, again, take on 1 to 2 more clients during that service. And you just got less of me, which for some people, heck, maybe they didn't mind that. As I transitioned to a curly hair specialist, what I realized is that the essence of the entire appointment required me, my hands, and I wanted that. Could I teach an assistant? Maybe I could, but I spent 20 years of my career doing that, and I really love now this opportunity to be one-on-one with a client, which meant either I was going to take a huge pay cut to go from doing 3 clients every hour and a half to just 1 client every 3 hours, or I was going to have to charge more but give more of myself, of my knowledge, and of my time to 1 client. And I found that to be the answer that I went with, and I think what a lot of curly hair specialists have decided to do. We're focused. I am focused. I'm gonna say I am me statements because I don't know every curly specialist, but I do know the ones that I know that are in my circle. This is the approach, is that the one-on-one component of listening, of being able to start where your client is at, is hugely important to the process of someone beginning to see their curls as special and unique. And that cannot be rushed. I can't bottle that up. I can't assistant that out. It is a vulnerability between me and my guest that needs to happen in order for me to help them. Often when a new curly client shows up in the salon, they're very nervous. I'm lucky that I have a social media presence that a lot of people are following me before they get in my chair. So they have an understanding of what's going to happen. I feel like we've already built a little bit of community together. But if you don't have that, there is just a fear of what's she going to ask me to do. A lot of girls are afraid to cut their hair because they feel like their hair doesn't grow. So there's these conversations in consulting with a curly client that I think I could rush through on a straight haired client who didn't have a lot of hair trauma. And that is why the charge is more. There's also that now you're paying for expertise as we move into, and usually a lot of curly specialists offer an express cut for existing clients, which is a dry cut, and you move quickly through that, just shaping up the hair and refreshing, and they go about their business. And this is great for your loyal clients who know how to do their hair, that feel like they know what's going on, and it's at a much more cost effective, and it gets you in and out. And then there's an in-between appointment that we're going to walk back through all the things. But each of the appointments that I offer comes with education. It's not just a haircut. I could do the haircut in half the time that I do it in and just get you through it and you would look great. But I'm going to be totally honest, you guys. I still do my own hair. I'm still afraid of allowing someone else, giving them the trust that they're not going to try to cut my hair off or make my hair look like something I'm not used to. And that takes a lot of, it's just such a tender space. And I'm so thankful that people trust me. But that's also why. So your initial appointment's a little bit more because it's time consuming. You're getting education as well as a haircut. And I would ask that when you're looking. So if you're just a curl friend and not a stylist listening to this episode of the podcast, and you're not my client, because a lot of you listen, I appreciate that. But if you're not my client, some things to look for when you're looking for a curly hair specialist and to ask about is, do they educate? And is that part of the appointment? Do they offer education in how they style? Because I've had a few clients that have come to me that have went to other stylists that have left disappointed because they don't feel like they're getting trained on how to do their hair. And do they leave with recommendations or an understanding? And I think those are really important. Or is it just a haircut? And that's okay too if that's all you're looking for, but that's a key piece. So if you want to become a curly hair stylist, you can take some classes. There's some really great education out there, you guys. And I don't think any of them are right or wrong. I offer and I'm launching a lot of new things this year as far as stylist education that I'm super excited about. But I offer a mentorship day where you can come in and just spend the day with me. I've had stylists come from out of state that have spent a couple days in Owasso and just really hung out in the salon. That's been super fun. I also offer Zoom classes if you just want to hop on a Zoom call and go through. If you're using, I am an InnerSense organic beauty girly to my core, clean beauty. And if you want, and you're using that product line but not sure about products, let's go over it. We can do that. I offer Zoom styling classes. So if you want to walk through a styling session together and you can't get by here, also I can come to you. I love in-person education. There's nothing like an in-person class. So those are all options. But there are tons of other, like, probably more professional, because I'm pretty low key in my approach to things. I do not have a PowerPoint. I hope someday I'm cool enough to have a PowerPoint. But at this point, what you get with me is me and some really great hands-on knowledge and all that I have to offer. Nothing held back. And I think that's really important. There's some other really great curly hair stylists and classes you can take, and those are going to give you some foundations. But curly styling is intuitive. Learn to trust your gut, and most importantly, learn to listen to your client. I treat hairstyling like dating, and I believe that's the most accurate way to look at it. Some of y'all are speed daters, and that's why you ain't got no commitment client retention, okay? If you're a speed dater and you're looking at your retention and your retention sucks, it's because you're wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You're too fast. You're too many people. You need to slow down, okay? For me, and I've only really been in a relationship with my husband. We've been together on and off since 8th grade. I've tried to find other people to like me, but just didn't happen. But a first date, I would assume you need to slow down and get to know each other. We're not really doing major hack off haircuts at a first date. I will, someone's paying me if they ask for it, but my goal on a first date is to get to know my client. What are your fears? What are your frustrations? What are your wins with your hair? What's going well? How can I help you add on to what you're already doing that you like? And I want to start with a toolbox at our first date, you know? A second date, now we're jiving. We've decided to go out again. You've come back. Hopefully you've taken the things we learned together. You have a little bit more knowledge. And now we can really start playing, because most of the time on a new client, they don't have a clue, right? You don't have a clue. If you like me, you don't have a clue if you're going to commit to the way that I do curly hair. And that's it. It's not a one size fits all. You're going to decide if we're a good fit. Third date is really where the magic, I believe, really starts happening. You're going to have a lot more experience. We're going to have troubleshot some things that you're doing. You're going to start understanding your hair better. You're going to have the right products, and we're going to be moving forward. That's the sweet spot. So date 3 and beyond is where commitment and longevity come into play. And I'm telling you, as someone who's been with their partner for 30 years, and I'm 44, I'm in the sweetest spot in my life in that relationship, because we have trust, we have commitment, and we have enough history to know what works and what doesn't work. And we have enough freedom to feel safe to try new things, right? So there's that. And I really believe that hairdressing is a really special industry. And I believe that educating is 1000% such a gift, to be able to have the light bulbs go off for people that don't know, and to help people to learn. And my girlfriends have my heart, but I really believe that learning self-acceptance and teaching people how to embrace their authentic beauty is really where my gifting lies. And I hope that if you are a stylist and you tuned in today, reach out to me if you want to learn together. I would love that. Or sign up for a class. But what are the criteria to make you a specialist? Anyone can put it on their page. You can put it on there right now if you want to. But I would encourage you to wait to raise your prices until you're confident with styling curly hair, and to put the ego aside and never quit learning. I use a mannequin head at least twice a week. I practice and experiment. If there's something I don't know, I take a class, I learn. I'm not afraid. So that was the other thing I was going to say. A lot of times curly hair specialists are spending a lot of money on education. But you have to put what you learn into practice. I know a lot of people just keep taking classes, but they ain't implementing. And then here's the other beautiful thing. You have to find your own way in the world. You cannot just duplicate somebody else's way. I've had stylists who use a lot of my language, and I love that, because that's why I'm an educator, because I want you to learn. But you have to have your own voice in this world, because there's only one you, and that's really, really important. So I hope that this was helpful to you today. If you're a stylist on the way, reach out. If you want to talk or share some ideas, I'd love to hear from you. And don't be afraid of the competition. Be afraid of your own setbacks, holdbacks, and insecurities. They're a bigger problem than the girl next door. Okay? So I hope that you have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. If you are liking the podcast, you know I'd love it if you'd share it. I guess this is where I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on social, and to listen wherever podcasts can be found. And join me every Tuesday at 2 as we unpack how to heal your hair, your heart, and your happiness.